That's a good point, Scott. And I think Melky Cabrera can do it. We just have to be realistic in his expectations healing from that back injury, like you said. Now, overall, this has been, again, a disappointing season for the Toronto Blue Jays, but they've gone out and they've re-signed some guys that did have some pretty good years. You look at Casey Janssen, they've picked up his option. Mark DeRosa has also been picked up, and they've picked up Adam Lind. Talk about the Jays exercising those options to those three players.
Jansen was obvious. He was terrific this year, and for the most part of the season, he was really grinding through the effects of the shoulder surgery he had last offseason. So to put the year together that he did was really quite remarkable. He's also a terrific guy, the type of guy that you want around. And for $4 million, if he pitches anywhere like he did last year, next year, he's a bargain. Lind bounced back. Adam Lind, if you look at his OPS, if you look at his numbers, his splits against right-handed pitching, he gave them the year that they wanted, and he stayed healthy. Now, he did have some back. He's got this chronic back thing, and he's done yoga in the off-season to try to curtail some of that. And while he did seize up in Boston at the end of June, and it forced him to miss a couple of games, for the most part, he stayed healthy, and he did not go on the disabled list, and that was a goal of his. So he played a healthy season, and he produced for them. He protected Edwin Encarnacion reasonably well, hitting behind Encarnacion for a lot of the season. They bring him back at $7 million. They would have had to buy him out for $2 million had they not exercised the option, so that makes sense. DeRosa's interesting. I do know that Mark wants more money. So it appears right now that DeRosa is into the Darren Oliver situation, which is his $750,000 option has been exercised, and the Blue Jays will probably tell DeRosa, look, you can come back for $750,000 or you can retire, but we're not trading you and we're not ripping this up and renegotiating. And if that sounds harsh and it sounds cruel, here's why. Alex Anthopoulos is not going to give club options to players, then rip those up when they have better than expected seasons and renegotiate. Because what happens when Jose Bautista's option comes up or Edwin Encarnacion's option comes up? When the more expensive guys, their options come up, they're going to want to renegotiate for a lot more money than, $750K or $3 million, as was the case with Darren Oliver. So DeRosa, I know he's a bit player at this part in his career, highly valued in the clubhouse, very, very important guy to have around Brett Laurie. But watch for that, because he's got a decision to make here. And I know he wants more than $750K, so he may decide to walk away. That's one to keep an eye on. The Kawasaki thing, look, guy relative to his peers is extremely limited, and he was a terrific guy, a terrific teammate, loved by his teammates, loved by the city, but he became the symbol of a bad year. If Munenori Kawasaki amusing people is what you're coming out to the park to see, chances are your team stinks. And their decision to walk away from $1 million option's an obvious one. Maybe they bring him back on a minor league deal if he doesn't get more money elsewhere or in Japan. But you can't bring a guy like that back for seven figures.
I wonder what would happen if I went up to my boss and just said, hey, if we're renewing my contract, I don't think $750,000 is going to be enough. But at the major league level, I understand Mark DeRosa might want a little more money there.
Well, DeRosa's a guy who's played a long time, and it's a pride issue. And I think he probably looks around the clubhouse, and he probably looks around baseball, and he sees guys with less pedigree and less accomplished making more than him. And maybe it causes him to scratch his head. Now, that said, players and agents agree to contracts. And he agreed not just to $750,000 in 2013. He also agreed to $750,000 in 2014 should the Blue Jays wish to exercise that option. And sure enough, they did. So he's got a decision to make. But I can tell you this right now, Mark DeRosa will be in baseball, whether he is playing, whether he is broadcasting, maybe a few years down the road, whether he's coaching or managing, Mark DeRosa will be around the game.
And last Blue Jays question here, Scott, and this is one that I think is reigning true for a lot of fans. And the fans, towards the end of the season, their interest started to waver. The team wasn't doing very well. Their playoffs dwindled, and they got out of contention. Are fans going to be coming back? What do you think, looking forward, obviously? We haven't even reached the winter meetings yet, but looking forward, can the Jays, aside from bringing in some free agents and trying to bolster the team, do they have enough leverage right now to get fans back on opening day? And are these fans still going to support this team after being so let down after last season?
Well, that's the thing. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. They were drawing really well deep into the summer, Colin, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that people bought the flex packs and the different partial season ticket packages. Some obviously went all in and bought packages for all 81 games. And they were drawing north of 30,000 fans. I think they averaged somewhere in the neighborhood of 32,000 fans a game this year, which is a very nice number. There are some ballparks around the league where that would be near a sellout. The Dome just happens to be one of the bigger parks, so it looks a little more cavernous when all the butts aren't in the seats. But I wonder if the pre-buys will come down somewhat significantly this year. Now, that said, they have made large strides in creating an atmosphere at Rogers Center where it's cool for guys and girls, particularly the younger demographic, kind of the 20 to 25s, 25s to 30s, some of the younger people living in the condos in the area, to come on down, and that's how you start your night. You know, you can catch a ball game, have a couple of beers, and then you can head on up to Front Street, King Street, Queen Street, wherever you're going, and get into it the rest of the evening. So they opened up Windows Restaurant, took the windows out, created a patio out there where if you had a ticket anywhere in the park, you could leave, go down and order up a pint, and then watch an inning or two down there from center field. They've really done some nice things. And I think the fan base has been galvanized, not just by the trades of the last offseason, but interest seemed to pick up with Brett Laurie, the Canadian, and the uniform change of a couple of off seasons ago. I don't know if they'll draw 32,000 fans a night next year. Probably not if they're a losing team. But this fan base will respond to a winner. And that's why I think the first 6 to 8 weeks of next season are so huge. And if you look at the Blue Jays schedule, from mid-May to mid-June, they are home heavy, like really, really home heavy. So if they're going to make some hay, they need to have a good first half of the season, and that will galvanize the fan base heading into the second half if they think that they've got a shot at watching playoff baseball, or at the very least games in September that matter.
Scott MacArthur is joining me on The Good, the Bad, the Tesky. He, of course, is the lead baseball reporter for the Toronto Blue Jays for TSN. Now, Scott, with the baseball season over, you have a whirlwind of a schedule for baseball season. What are you going to do with your spare time? Like, what's going to keep you busy? Obviously, you're going to have some off-season stories to cover, but what do you got going on?
Well, I will be at the winter meetings. The GM's meetings are next week. I won't be at those, but I will be at the winter meetings, which are December 9th to 12th in Orlando. And then it'll be, as you said, from a work perspective, just about when the Jays make some moves. If they sign somebody, if they make a big trade, I could be as long as I'm somewhere in the GTA, I'll be on my way into work or on a conference call or into a press conference. So I'm kind of on call that way, really, for the next month and a half, because that's typically when this stuff happens. But outside of that, I am a huge San Francisco 49ers fan. I've never been to Candlestick Park. It's closing after this season. They've got a cathedral opening up down the way in Santa Clara next year. So I've pegged the December 1st game against the St. Louis Rams. That's really the only one in my schedule that I see working for me. So my intention is to get out to San Francisco to see them play. Stanford is home to Notre Dame the night before, so I might swing down to Palo Alto to catch that game as well. I hate the Fighting Irish, so I'll definitely be rooting for Stanford. I got to get up to Ottawa because I worked there for a long time, and I've got a lot of friends that I miss and want to see, and I'll probably do an all-inclusive thing in January. So I'm gonna I'm going to use my Marriott points. I'm going to use my Air Mile points, and I'm going to enjoy the next 3 months. And then in mid-February, back down to Dunedin for 6 weeks of spring training.
That's great, Scott. I love how you cover baseball day in, day out, and you're still going to fit in some sports in your holiday time. That's a true sign of a sports fan. That sounds like a great holiday, Scott. Again, thanks for taking the time after a whirlwind of a World Series to join me. And again, enjoy yourself. Maybe buy some groceries, yeah. Fix the apartment a little bit. Enjoy that, because you haven't been doing that for at least the baseball season.
You know what I'm going to do? I've got 2 suitcases on my living room floor that I never put away. I just take clothes out when I get home, put clothes in the night before I have to leave. I'm going to put those suitcases away. It'll be a nice feeling, at least for a little bit.
Well, that's great, Scott. Well, thank you for joining the good, the bad, the Teskey. And like I said, have a great off season.
Thanks, pal. We'll talk again.